In 2021, the indie game Tormented Souls was released in multiple platforms. The game was a survival horror title modeled after games like Resident Evil. I picked it up and played it and was blown away by how good it was. Now in 2025, its sequel was released and I decided to pick it up. Is it as good as the first one? Let's find out. Hi everyone, my name is Jeremy and this is my non-spoiler review for Tormented Souls 2 for the ps5. The game was developed by Dual Effect and published by P-Cube Ltd. So what's the story in Tormented Souls? In this game, you play as Caroline Walker once again. Caroline decides to take her twin sister Anna to a convent to receive help with some emotional and spiritual problems that she has been manifesting through her drawings. When they arrive at the convent, things are not what they seem. Now it's up to Caroline to solve the mystery of what is going on and rescue her sister, all while surviving encounters with nightmarish monsters. The game's story is told through voice-acted cutscenes and documents that you find throughout the game. So let's talk about the visuals. This game goes for some realistic visuals. Environments are hyper-realistic with high visual fidelity and filled with lots of detail that make every environment atmospheric and different. There's a heavy emphasis on the use of lighting and dark shadows, not only with the visuals but also with the gameplay. And the game takes place in a very unique setting, a convent, and other places related to that convent. I found this to be very different from other horror games that I played, and it was a welcomed change. In terms of its performance, the game ran at a consistent 60 FPS for the most part. Only some areas of the game were unstable. In regards to the music, the game has some very atmospheric and haunting music that complements very well each setting that you're exploring. So let's talk about the gameplay. Tormented Souls 2 is a survival horror game with resource management, exploration, puzzle solving, and combat. There is no inventory management in this game. You have an infinite amount of slots for the items. The game features fixed camera angles, and you can choose between modern controls and tank controls. In terms of the exploration, you will explore different interconnected areas that require you to find key items and solve puzzles to advance. This time around, even your weapons will function as key items at certain points, so you will have to consider your entire inventory when exploring. During exploration, you will find resources in the form of healing items, melee and long-range weapons. You will also find documents that expand on the story, lore, and that give you clues to solving the puzzles. You have a map that will help you with the exploration also. Areas are big and intricately connected. In terms of the puzzle solving, the puzzles in this game are manageable, but I do have to say that a lot of them are very obtuse to solve. So let's talk about the combat. While exploring, you will come across different types of monsters. At your disposal, you will have melee weapons and guns to engage and kill them. As a survival horror game, you will have to evaluate if killing or evading the monster is the right choice. One key aspect of the exploration and combat in this game is the use of the lighting. Caroline cannot be in complete darkness because she dies if she's there for too long. This means that if you come across an enemy, you have to make sure that you have light near you in order to be able to use your weapons. This adds tension to the exploration and enemy engagements. In terms of enemy variety, I found it to be a little bit limited, especially for the first half of the game. They do increase in variety as you move forward. The game also features boss fights. Each main area has a boss fight, and these are a combination of doing enough damage, like in a classic Resident Evil game, and engaging in some sort of gimmick to defeat them, almost like a Zelda game. Tormented Souls 2 is a lengthy game. It took me at least 13 hours to complete, but it will vary depending on how fast you progress. So let's talk about the pros and cons of this game, and I'm gonna start out with the pros. The main thing that made this game stand out was its visuals and atmosphere. And when I talk about its visuals, I have to point out it's not so much the character models because they look serviceable. It's more so the environments, which look incredible, and the atmosphere that is created with the music, with the visuals, with the lighting is outstanding. It's one of the things that makes this game very enjoyable from beginning to end, and it's one of the things that's going to stick with you as a player. So let's talk about the cons of this game, and I have two main complaints. First of all, obtuse puzzles. Some puzzles are not intuitive at all to solve. I found myself having to use trial and error to solve some of the puzzles in the game because I felt like there were some missing elements in order for me to solve them. Other times, the game required certain interactions with certain items that to me were not obvious, and it made me waste a lot of time. My second main complaint, and it's maybe the biggest one, is the unbalanced combat. Usually when you think of survival horror games with fixed camera angles, you think of slow, methodical combat. This needs to be this way because the traditional tank controls and fixed camera angles do not lend themselves for fast action-focused encounters. Tormented Souls 1 understood this, but sadly its sequel didn't. Enemies attack and move too fast far too many times. I took damage because enemies attack you as soon as they see you and move so fast compared to you that I could not dodge them. This surprised me because I can't imagine how they expected you to dodge with slow controls and fixed camera angles. Enemies became obstacles that took away from my exploration because they were almost always positioned in very inconvenient tight spaces and I could not find a way to evade them, or they constantly harassed me, taking away from my enjoyment. It always felt like the game wanted you to kill every enemy you found. Additionally, enemies are very spongy. On top of it all, bosses were not very good. Each area that you visit has a boss, and they are a combination of a traditional boss fight like I mentioned earlier, and gimmicks, and honestly, they're not very fun to fight. So in conclusion, Tormented Souls 2 is a game with a confused identity. At its heart, there is a survival horror game with a haunting atmosphere, visuals, and setting that will give the player an outstanding horror vibe and experience. These incredible elements come with a side of obtuse puzzles that are frustrating to solve. Alongside its survival horror core, there is the presence of what appears to be an action horror game that doesn't quite fit with the core of the game. Survival horror games with fixed camera angles are supposed to be slow and methodical in regards to their combat. Every enemy encounter is a decision that the player must make to choose if facing or evading the enemy. However, Tormented Souls 2 combined these classic survival horror elements with spongy enemies that attack very fast and that appear in very tight spaces where evading is almost impossible, sending mixed messages and creating a confusing experience in the process. These elements made the game fall under the shadow of its predecessor and affected my gameplay experience. Nevertheless, when you take into consideration all the elements that compose this game, the experience is still pretty solid. For this reason, I recommend Tormented Souls 2 for the ps5. So that's going to be it for this non-spoiler review. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like, leave a comment, and share this video. And thank you all for listening. Take care. Hi everyone, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with our content.